Has Dave Filoni retconned the Star Wars Thrawn Ascendancy novels and adapted a live-action version of Heir to the Empire? Well, a lot of people think so, and I think it may be possible. I can't make my case in one or two sentences, so my apologies for that. And the idea for this video was brought on by several comments by one of our regulars here on the channel. A lot of times comments don't get the proper response that I would like to give, so I take your comments and expand upon them. When I do that, I always give a shout out to the original person who posted it. So this shout out goes to Brittany Taylor. Thank you for all the comments and concerns dealing with Grand Admiral Thrawn. Let's see if we can address those. In the past, I've made videos stating that Star Wars will move into an era strongly resembling the Yuuzhan Vong Wars of the old expanded universe, now deemed Legends. I also explained how the newer Thrawn novels are building up a similar story in the unknown regions with a group called the Grisk. But with the latest Ahsoka trailers, have these newer Thrawn novels been deemed legends themselves? Meaning, will they either no longer be canon or just considered side stories that will have no part of the Star Wars canon shows and movies moving forward? I say neither of these are the case, and let's go into why. In the newer Star Wars stories, Thrawn is the antagonist. That's obvious. And I'm sorry to say, he was never meant to be a hero. Aww. I know a lot of people are hoping his character would shift in the new Star Wars canon, and largely because he is shown in a more relatable perspective in the newer Thrawn Ascendancy novels. But there's so much to the reasons for making us empathetic to him in those novels. For one, it shows that there's a reason for what he does, a deep-seated cultural aspect to his motivations for joining the Empire, and those motivations are to protect his home from the growing Grisk threat. And in order to do that, Thrawn's intentions were to gain favor with the Emperor and have the Empire assist Thrawn in the unknown regions. Why not? The Empire is the most powerful organization in the galaxy, and they show their strength. The Empire's technology is superior and their numbers are staggering. All of this is obvious, but there are things contained within the canon that prove this is what he's after without saying it directly. Let's look at Thrawn's actions in Star Wars Rebels. In the show, the dude is kind of a dick. He's hunting the rebels of the Ghost Crew in order to maintain Imperial order, right? Well, sort of. Yes, his loyalties at that moment lie in the Empire and to Emperor Palpatine, but his greater loyalties will always lie with the Chiss Ascendancy. Remember, his motivation for being there in the first place is so Thrawn can gain help in the unknown regions. But let's look at his actions. The biggest is Thrawn's disdain for the Death Star construction, or Project Stardust if you prefer. Thrawn sees this as a huge waste of resources and favors the manufacturing of smaller one-man fighters with greater capabilities than the previous iterations of TIE fighters. This is Grand Admiral Thrawn's pet project, and he nearly wins out. If it weren't for those pesky rebels on Lothal, Thrawn surely would have had funds and resources given to him to build a massive air wing of nearly unstoppable fighters. That would have turned the war. Then there is the issue of the rebels, but there's in fact a rebel problem on Lothal, the facility in which the TIE Defenders are being developed and eventually will be produced in large numbers. So how does this correlate with his protection of the Chiss Ascendancy against the Grisk? Well, let's look at the Grisk. What are they? They're pirates and marauders in numbers greater than anything the Chiss could defend against. Okay, neat. But what does that have to do with his fight to get TIE Defenders built over a mighty Death Star? Simple. The Grisk don't have a home world. They're scattered throughout the unknown regions. A planet-killing weapon would be useless, but fighters with shield capabilities would be formidable against a less technological threat. So when we look back at Thrawn's involvement in Star Wars Rebels, we can draw a clear picture. His sole purpose for fighting the rebels was to protect the TIE Defender factory and in turn protecting the Empire in order to maintain its strength. As long as rebels were threatening the power of the Empire, Emperor Palpatine would throw its resources at eliminating that threat. And if the TIE Defender factory were to fall under rebel control, Thrawn's mission to return the Chiss Ascendancy in greater numbers would be thwarted. And we see that Thrawn was correct. It only took one lone X-Wing fighter to destroy the Death Star. where a whole squadron of A-Wings was needed to defeat a single TIE Defender. If Thrawn had the TIE Defenders in the unknown regions, the Grisk would be eliminated much easier. Before I continue, here's a quick word from our sponsor, me. Yeah, I pay the bills. I'm the sponsor. Get over it. Hit the subscribe button and like the video to help me become the best YouTube channel around dealing with Star Wars. Why? Because it's freaking Star Wars, baby, and you all deserve someone who works tirelessly to give you the best content. That means I work for you. So, go on and subscribe. Okay, let's get back to the reasons I think Dave Filoni is not abandoning the newer Thrawn Ascendancy novels. The Death Stars are destroyed. Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader are gone. The rebels are now the controlling government in the galaxy, and they now call themselves the New Republic, basing themselves off the Republic prior to the rise of Palpatine, a highly political organization with no real means to defend itself. Thrawn sees them as weak, unable to help him. The only hope he has of winning the losing battle in the unknown regions against the Grisk is to bring back the strength of the Empire. Sure, the rebels were able to defeat the mighty Empire during the Galactic Civil War, but once the war was all but won, the rebels abandoned the use of their military and navy. Not that Thrawn would side with them anyway, he was now seen as an enemy of the state. His best bet is to gather the Imperial remnant and take them to the unknown regions to rebuild or fight the Grisk. See where I'm going with this? If we look back to the original writings of Timothy Zahn and his Heir to the Empire novels, we see a similar story to what we're getting in the current Star Wars canon. Thrawn led the Empire against the newer rebel-led government and nearly succeeded in defeating them. And he did it for the Chiss Ascendancy. And this has a lot of people troubled that the evil Thrawn from Heir to the Empire novels is returning and the newer Thrawn novels are being left to the sidelines. But they aren't. His loyalties still lie with the Chiss Ascendancy, but now if he were to reorganize the Empire into something he was the leader of, Thrawn could allocate the resources needed to fight the Grisk. Once that mission is complete, he could then allow the First Order, the Empire, to go its own way and implode on itself. The Chiss Ascendancy would be safe from Jixtus and his band of merry marauders, and the Empire could leave the region to do whatever it needs to do in the inner worlds of the galaxy. What does Thrawn care? He's home. And without his leadership, he knows the officers of the First Order, Empire, would return to the culture created by the Empire, a culture where the leaders would fight among themselves for control of the faction. And what did we see in the sequel trilogy? General Hux constantly trying to undermine Kylo Ren's leadership, officers turning on one another. Where a lot of fans get confused is by thinking Thrawn is a hero, and to the Chiss Ascendancy, they're right. But when we look at the perspective of the heroes we are shown, Thrawn is a villain through and through. He has redeeming qualities, but his actions in the confines of their space, he has committed atrocities. So at best, we can see Grand Admiral Thrawn as an anti-hero. At best. I tried to sum up how Thrawn would be viewed in the New Republic on my Discord, and it goes a little something like this. Hit it. If you work for an evil organization and even rise through the ranks and become a Grand Admiral of that organization, does that make you innocent of charges against that organization? No matter where your loyalties lie, no matter the motivation for committing despicable acts, and to become such a high-ranking officer, evil acts were part of the assignment. But Thrawn was even against the Death Star program. Could it be because he didn't agree with killing civilians, as well as huge waste in resources? Claiming to just have been following orders never excused anyone in our own world. Nazis were still persecuted for what they did, regardless of their reasons for doing it. Thrawn isn't innocent, but he does have more meaning to what he does, and maybe his years in Imperial service corrupted him. No one wants them to continue the Grisk wars more than I do, but this is their story to tell, not mine. I know I brought up the heated topic of the First Order in the sequel trilogy, but in the direction the writers at Lucasfilm, including Dave Filoni, are going, suggests that they are trying to make that trilogy make more sense. And why not use Thrawn to do it? He's a fan favorite. If the Empire returned, a lot of people see this as a slap in the face to Luke Skywalker and his friends who fought so hard to destroy it. That the sacrifices made were in vain. But if it were Thrawn who actually helped with the reemergence of the Empire as the First Order, and may have even aided in somehow Palpatine returns, then the whole story takes on a whole new light, in my eyes at least. We know for a fact that the First Order regained its strength in the unknown regions, the same place the Grysk were a threat and Thrawn fought to protect. It only makes sense that this direction will help the 3 movies Star Wars fans hate so much. I'm sorry, they aren't going to retcon the sequel trilogy. As much as a lot of people want it to happen, it won't. Too many billions of dollars have been spent on it. The best they can do is make it a little more sense. And by making Grand Admiral Thrawn take the Empire to the unknown regions in order to show his true allegiance is to the Chiss Ascendancy may just fix a few of the issues Star Wars fans have with the sequel trilogy. I said a few, not all. But what do you think? Is this plausible, or am I way off my rocker with this thought? Is Dave Filoni just abandoning the newer Thrawn Ascendancy novels? Let me know what you think in the comments. I do read them all and I try to respond to as much as possible. Why? Because I work for you. I'm not the guy who asks for comments then ignores you. You are heard. And thank you again, Brittany Taylor, for your dedication to preserving Grand Admiral Thrawn. And before you all go, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like the video. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm to get my message across to a wider base. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. Until the next video, this is Gerald, a Star Wars fanatic, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you, always.